But friendship for me is like the word love. They are precious, they should be regarded, and they should be used only in certain cases.
Stephen has this beautiful fonted email, and when you receive a letter from Stephen, it's almost like poetry.
Acknowledging people is so important. And if they have a name that's unfamiliar to you, ask them, and that's what I do.
Welcome today to another episode of Courageous Conversations. I am so excited this evening to have a dear friend with me, my dear friend Stephen Hirth from New York City. And as he came to dinner tonight with his wife, Nino, I convinced him to come down and have a courageous conversation with us. So, Stephen, thank you so much for joining me this evening.
Oh, it's delicious. We're so happy to be here. Anytime with you is always wonderful for us.
Thank you so very much, Stephen. Stephen and I became associated several years ago, and one of the ways you know when you're dealing with the real deal is they don't hold a title. And more importantly is they treat everyone that you interact with respect. And Stephen, that's the thing that I became very tender with you initially, is I saw the integrity with how you treated people. I've heard you comment that this is something that you learned as a child and part of your family, your background. Would you mind sharing a little bit of what brought you to the dignity and way that you interact with people?
No, thank you. I learned a lot of things from my parents, but it's not always what they said, it's what they did. And I remember we were very privileged. We had some very prominent people who used to come into our home. They crossed our threshold. And two of them come to mind now. We had some politicians, both from the state and nationally, who would come in. And my mother had a very long white couch, and they'd sit on the couch, and they would always they'd be served. My mother had a certain type of china, and they'd be served tea or coffee with that china, and everyone had a proper napkin. Both my parents came from Europe, and that's how they treated them. And I remember my father had one of his mechanics come over to the house one day, and my mother happened to be home and came in, and the mechanic was also going to be seated in the living room. My mother pulled my father aside and said, he's going to have everything like everyone else has, except for one thing. He has to put a towel underneath him because he's just coming from the garage. It's cheaper to wash a towel than it is to get me a new couch. But even he was served with the same china, the same napkins, the same silverware. And my parents instilled in me, you treat the head of a company or of a political position the same way you treat a mechanic or a cleaning person. Each one should be earned or regarded with respect. It can only go down, and that was instilled in me from a very, very early age. And to this day, when I go into hotels or restaurants, if someone has a name tag, I'll look at them, and maybe if I can't pronounce it correctly, I'll ask them. And they are so appreciative that I acknowledge them. But that's how I was taught. Acknowledging people is so important. And if they have a name that's unfamiliar to you, ask them, and that's what I do.
Thank you, Stephen. And I've seen you do that over and over. And I know those of us in your network and friend group love and look forward to the love notes you send to us. Stephen has this beautiful fonted email. And when you receive a letter from Stephen, it's almost like poetry. And so we appreciate the tenderness with how you value relationships and the importance of relationships. We were talking earlier this evening that oftentimes we're a little dismissive and maybe don't put as much weight and gravity into the depth and importance of building relationships as we once did. Would you care to comment a little bit on how you perceive relationships and what you do to build relationships?
Relationships for me are like a plant, or particularly a plant that flowers and has blossoms. If they don't get some water, some sunlight, and some attention, you're not going to grow anything. It just won't nurture. And I'll give you three specifics, Rich. I remember when I had the blessing of meeting Nino, and then we went from dating, she and her two sons, our two sons, I call them now, moved into New York. one of the boys asked me, they moved into my apartment, and they came from a suburb into the heart of Manhattan. And one of the boys said, "Can I bring someone over for dinner?" I said, "This is your home. Of course you can." And I asked the question, is it a friend? Is it a buddy? Or is it an acquaintance? And our son looked at us, particularly at me, said, "What do you mean?" I said, we have a very long dining room table. And if it's your friend, she or he sits to my immediate left. If it's a buddy, still on the left side, but more in the middle of the table. And if it's an acquaintance, at the end. And my son couldn't figure it. Our son couldn't figure that out. And I explained, I said, for me, friendship comes with accountability and responsibility. So I'm not always at all the parties, and my friends know that. But when there's a problem or there's an issue, 3 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm there. I said, if it's a friend, I want to really get to know about this person and why this person is special to you, because it's a friend. If it's a buddy, there's still a relationship. And if it's an acquaintance, it's just, there's nothing wrong with saying this is an acquaintance. In many cultures, it's accepted to say that's an acquaintance. We're, in my opinion, too quick to say, this is my friend, this is my friend. But friendship for me is like the word love. They are precious, they should be regarded, and they should be used only in certain cases. I grew up in a family where both my parents came from Europe, and they came as immigrants. My father preceded my mother. He came in the late 40s. My mother came in the, I believe it was early 50s. I don't remember that my father said maybe once to me that he loved me. But there was never, ever, ever a hesitation in my mind that he didn't love me. And my mother also, she said it more often and demonstrated it, but it was understood, it was demonstrated. Accountability was very important in my family. It's not what you say, it's what you do. And with me, I've had the great privilege. I've been working since I'm 8 years old, and I've been traveling since I'm 6 months old. And traveling meant even going to the neighboring town. And working, I've shoveled manure, I've worked in retail, I've worked in banks, I did construction, I've done so many things. And it exposed me to different people. It made me more aware of our similarities. It also made me aware that I learn from everyone. If I don't learn something every day from someone, it's been a wasted day for me.
Well, just such a beautiful answer. And don't you just love the response? With friendship comes also accountability and responsibility. What a beautiful way to look at it, Stephen. I heard a joke a bit back that actually is rather morbid and sad, but humorous at the same time. Of tragically, a young man passed, and his parents rented out this huge hall for the funeral. And when only 12 people showed up, they says, we're just shocked and surprised. He had 10,000 Facebook friends. And I really think that that's tragically the society that we live in now. And I personally believe that just what I call blood brothers or sisters, this tight-knit group of individuals that you'd give your kidney for.
Yes.
And then the next group is, who could you call at 3 o'clock in the morning? And no questions asked, they'd be there for you. And those two groups need to be deeply protected.
Yes.
And I see in evidence of how you treat others that even the tribe gets that level of attention and detail. But the relationships in your life are key, and we feel it. We feel, those of us that are fortunate enough to be on the receiving side, how well you nurture relationships. And probably the greatest lesson I take from you, Stephen. So thank you for that.
Listen, it's, I say that what I want to do is every day have a positive impact on at least 4 people around the world. And I do it in a variety of ways, but sometimes it's just listening. And other times it's, I have people, I remember as a kid how thrilled I was on my birthday or other times, I'd get a handwritten card. And today I write, literally it has to be, I'm going to say, give or take a year, maybe more than 1,000 up to 1,500 handwritten cards, particularly to children or to older people. And they are so appreciative. Now, my handwriting's atrocious. It's almost hieroglyphics. People say, we got the card. When we see you, can you translate it for us? But I take the time to do it. There's a saying in German that translates into English: the small things make the biggest difference. And I see that, my sending out of the birthday or the anniversary cards or just a handwritten note, it'll come 2-3 weeks later, depending on the mail. It's gotten worse in many countries. But when people get it, it's like, oh my God, I thought he was upset or he didn't appreciate the hospitality that we extended towards him. But when they get the card, my expression of gratitude is magnified that much more. Like, we're so appreciative of your card. And I think that's really critical. And not just for that, but even I have with our sons. I have taken the time where they've done things that have made me very proud of them, and they've done things that have made me rather angry and frustrated, as I was with my parents. That's just part of parenting. And I've taken the time to write them handwritten letters. Some of them are very extensive. They haven't thrown them out. It's easy for us to press a button on the computer and delete or file here, file that. But when someone gets, even if it doesn't have to be Shakespearean prose, but goes that extra distance, there's an integrity factor, there's an accountability factor, and there's actually, if I may be a little bit direct here, giving a damn about the other person factor, which oftentimes we forget today how important that is.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. I mean, you just offered up 3 beautiful golden diamond crusted gems right there that I need to unpack. The first of all is the importance of gratitude, of expressing gratitude. I'm convinced that it's just the rocket fuel that fuels the human soul. The second is the concept of written letters and notes. I mean, if Stephen can do 1,000 per year, is it possible for you to maybe do 1 per week even? Write the school teacher or write the individual that made a difference, because oftentimes they don't really know it. And from my experience, most of us live deep, deep, dark in our head, and we need those encouraging words. And I don't know. There's just so many little bites of wisdom there. I really appreciate that, Stephen. And I think the real gravity here is I know some of the works that you do in the that was the third one is the acts of service. You do 4 acts of service deliberately every day, and some of them small, but in your position, some of them very meaningful. And I love the fact that you do them privately rather than publicly, Stephen.
For me, I've always preferred being in the background. And that for me, I was raised by my parents that said, you have 2 eyes and 2 ears. Look more and listen more than you speak. And as I shared with you, and people who know me well, I've been traveling my whole life all over the world. And I go and ask questions. And I look at things, and I'll ask again and ask again, sometimes where I become an annoyance. And I know it, but I want to learn. But because I've been asking, I'm not coming and saying, I know better. I say, I don't know, and I want to learn. I think that's key, to have the self-confidence to say, I don't know. We don't have to know everything. We need to, though, have the comfort level to say, I don't know. And I think this is what's important for families and particularly for children today. It's a different type of pressure today that kids have and families have and even business leaders have. But there's a commentary, I think it comes from the Old Testament, that Shakespeare made famous. I think it's Hamlet's 3rd act. To thine own self be true, so as the day follows night, so should you. We have to learn to be more honest with ourselves, and we can be more honest with other people.
Very good. Yeah. To thy own self be true.
And we have to then, once we do that, we have to apply it in the families. Most children think their parents at an early age are super people. They come from Marvel Comics. Mom can do no wrong. Dad is all encompassing. He's great. He does this. And as parents, we feel that we have to keep up this facade instead of saying, here's where I've messed up, but also here's where I've done well. And encourage the kids to say, come and ask, come and learn. And to find also, I think for kids to find, if they can't communicate that well with their parents, find a different messenger to help them reach that communication with their parents. When many of the children that I know, when they graduate high school, I send them the book from Dr. Seuss, Oh, the Places You'll Go. When one reads that as an adult to a little child, we're quickly reading the pages and going through it. When one's reading that, though, as an adult, going on to college, maybe going into the military, or maybe going to a vocation, those same words that we read or were read to when we were little now have much more gravitas. They make us more somber or sober and aware to, we're going to have some tough days and we'll get through it. And how do we get through it?
Yeah, absolutely beautiful. I love that you quoted Shakespeare and Dr. Seuss in the same metaphor. And I have to tell you, I love both. As a matter of fact, one of my most prized books is one team in a very difficult time gave me that book all signed, Oh, the Places You'll Go, with reference to the place at the bottom at the time. Oh, my dear friend. I have one final question, and the intent of this podcast is called Courageous Conversations. And the concept of this is having the courage to face our fears, fears with reality, to have the wisdom to go towards the things that scare us rather than to go hide from them, rather than to medicate them, rather than to avoid them, but to have fierce with reality courage or courageous conversations with ourselves. I've never met an incredible individual accomplished, and I would count you in that group. You've taught me so much in this last couple of years. Well, it is true. I just have such respect for you with the gravity with which you carry yourself, the dignity, how you present yourself, and your expression to humanity. And I would like to know, everyone's aware that I've kind of went the last 4 years through my dark moment of the soul and had to come the other side, thus the podcast. And I would love to hear your thoughts. And if you wouldn't share maybe a dark moment of the soul, or the dark night of the soul, and any advice you might give on a courageous conversation of how to face, or when you faced fierce with reality, something that just was very uncomfortable to move towards, and any final words of advice to our audience.
No one's ever asked me a question like that. And I'm reflecting.
That's why it's a very good question.
It's an excellent one. I haven't faced some of those demons like others have that I know. And I'm very fortunate. I've lived around the world and worked, and I've had my own smaller ones. And one of the things that comes to mind, and maybe this is appropriate, you tell me or not, I sometimes get emotional when I reflect on my parents. I think of it similar to former Speaker of the House Bonnier. I'm so comfortable in my own skin, I have no problem sharing my emotions, the tears, because they're tears of joy when I do have those reflections and recollections. Both my parents survived World War II in different ways. My father, at the age of 12, came from a very prominent family. There was a price on his head, and he was interned in one of the first camps and then escaped. 2/3 of his family was killed. My mother, the majority of her family had perished, and it was only her parents and her brother that survived. And they came to this country, and they worked very hard. I did not know the sacrifices then. I wasn't yet born. Later on, I started hearing them, from a few from my parents, then from other people. And I grew up in a small town, and my parents were well known not only in the town, but concentric circles throughout many areas. And there was a time where I didn't have an identity. I was the son of. And at that point, there was part of my life I was happy, the son of. And as I got older, it became a burden for me. And I didn't have my own identity. And then I was very fortunate. I went to, in 1980, I was on a school trip, and I went to the Soviet Union. And that really changed my life. And I started studying about Eastern Europe and trade and business. And I met some people, which is a total other story, but I met some people who really changed my life. And I was offered a job, and I came home. I said to my parents, I'm finishing up my final semester, and I graduated. And I said, I've been offered a job in Europe. And my father was adamantly against it. And all of a sudden, go and call Rich, call Charlie, this, they'll have a job or something or other. And I was put in a situation where I had to ask myself, am I running from or am I running towards? Was I running from being the son of, or was I running towards finding myself and learning how to fail? And it was really tough. There were times where there was a period my father and I didn't speak for a while. My mother was caught in the middle. And then I said, I really want to go. And I remember my father, his last words when they took me to the airport, you don't have to feel like a dog with the tail between the legs if it doesn't work out. Yeah. Now, instead of words of encouragement, that hurt me at the time. And I was determined only to come back after I tried everything if I really failed. So I went to Europe. I ended up, it took longer to get the working papers, had a few setbacks, and I really felt I'd made the wrong decision. Maybe my father was right. Maybe the man who I thought was, this all omnipotent, influential, powerful man was really the one to whom I should have listened to. And then I can't tell you what or how, but all of a sudden I said, start trusting yourself. And I ended up being very successful at the bank at which I worked. They sent me around the world. Yes, I made some foolish mistakes there. I make foolish mistakes as soon as I wake up in the morning sometimes. But that ability to realize that I could rely on myself, that I could make mistakes and own up to them, that has helped me throughout my life. I turned 60. I still make mistakes. I apologize for them, whether it's in the family or in my other around the world. And someone recently introduced me to someone to do a business deal with them. And the person said, why do you think I should work with, Stephen Hirth? And I was going to say something. The other person who introduced us interjected and made two comments. One was, what you see is what you get. And the other one is, his phone calls or his emails are returned. And I didn't know exactly the person to whom I was being introduced. And I found out in his country, he really is a man of prominence, and his family dates back generations. He just looked at the person and then at me. He said, I've never heard that. I haven't heard that for a long, long time. And now I'm going to be flying over to that part of the world in March, and we're going to continue our discussion. But it ties into, yes, I loved my parents. Yes, I was afforded many things, but I also needed to learn how to believe more in myself and how to go to places and push the limits. I didn't speak the language. I really didn't know people. Yeah, I made mistakes, but if we don't learn by our mistakes, those are sometimes the best ones. It's not from where we go to school. We have those beautiful pieces of parchment.
No, it is not.
You get a grade for this, you get a grade for that. But to really give yourself your own grade. Did I do a good job today? If I didn't, what can I do better? And who can help me in a positive way, not as take advantage of? Who can move me? Who can inspire me? Who can put more gas in my tank so that I can be positively impactful?
Beautiful, Stephen. That's wonderful. I think I learned 3 key things from that. Number one is at some point, every son must kill his father, not physically kill him, but metaphorically have to be their own man. Just as went down to retrieve Horace's eye, we have to do that, and there's no shame in that. And I think that allows us to love our fathers even more. And second of all, it's okay to make mistakes, and actually we learn from them. I love this statement: a stupid man never learns from his mistakes. A smart man learns from his mistakes. A wise man learns from others' mistakes. And most of the time I've been a stupid man. But the third thing that I wanted to do and pull gravity to is to honor your parents. To honor your parents and the gravity and sacrifices they made. I went this summer to Dachau, and the incredible impact that had on my soul and the strength of their souls. I just, on this podcast, would like to formally honor them, honor your heritage and the amazing sacrifice that they did to bring this spectacular man before me.
Listen, I appreciate this. I'm hitting the microphone here. I think we all, in so many ways, Rich, regardless of religion or where we are, it's easy to say what we don't have. We often forget how important the little things in life that we have really enrich our lives. It's so easy to forget them today.
Yeah.
For a variety of reasons.
It really is. Everyone says it's never been a worse time to live in the history of the world. I was like, well, really?
Yes. Exactly.
Is that really right? Let's analyze that. How do you want to use Grandma and Grandpa's outhouse toilet?
Yes, exactly.
Or how do you feel about the heat button? So we really are very, very blessed, and oftentimes we lose sight of that. Stephen, just how much respect I have for you, how much I appreciate you, and just want you to know, just from the bottom of my heart, my respect for you and appreciation, and I am happy to have you call upon me anytime to further your causes. So thank you for taking a few minutes with us tonight. Any final words to the audience before we tap out here?
One is, we appreciate you very much. Nino and I have gotten to know you and Gay and really embrace you as part of our extended family here. The other thing is, driving up here, we spoke to a friend of mine. Pamela is the sister that I always wanted to have. And she and her husband have two children, son and a daughter. And we were talking about children today. And people are talking about success. And oftentimes when people talk about success, it's in regards to money.
Yeah.
But people, I think, and I'm one of them, need to start looking at what is the impact, the positive impact or the well-being impact that we are leaving our children, that our children will carry on. I think that is something that we want. A lot of children aren't going to college today. A lot of children aren't doing this, aren't doing that. What is it that we really want for our kids? Is it financial success, or is it that we're giving the world gifts? And these gifts empower love, have an understanding of what it is to embrace the world, warts and all, and to be part of the positive change. And when we can look back and we say that our children really are enhancing their communities and their families, as parents, we should be proud because we contributed to that as well. We, and I think this is so important, we redefine what success is. We understand today the importance of family, and the families have changed. It doesn't matter race, religion, sexual orientation. If there's a unit to support that child or those children, they are going to be the greatest gifts that we can give to mankind, things that can't be bought, that we're sharing part of our lives with them. And that's where we need to invest more time. My final comment is people who have people to advise them about their assets. They always say, well, the bankers or the investment advisors, you have this in property, you have this amount in public securities, you have this and this. In that pie chart, there's never a piece of the pie that says, what are you investing in the family? It's not just monetary, it's even taking time away to say, I want to make sure my wife, my husband, my children, my grandchildren, if I'm building this, I want to build something with them and for them. And it doesn't matter if one has a lot of money or little money. It's that accountability that I'll get back to of investing in ourselves and in our families. That's so critical.
Just such beautiful comments. I could not have closed that out better. It drives me a little bit nuts that the definition of wealth now is money.
Mm-hmm.
The actual definition, the root of the definition is we are wealth. We are well,
Mm-hmm.
meaning emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and truly the greatest wealth that we can pass on has nothing to do with dollars, has to do with wisdom and value and skill. So I really appreciate you wrapping us up there, Stephen. And I just thank you again for coming, and just a wonderful evening with you. And we look forward to having you with us on our next episode of Courageous Conversations, where we have the difficult, the direct, the honest, the hard conversations, and we're not afraid to go directly fierce with reality to the things that scare us. Thank you, and we'll see you on the next episode.